Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar, The Future of HR is Digital. Today, we'll be talking about trends for employee engagement. This event is very timely as more and more organizations are seeing the compelling need to enable remote working arrangements in the midst of COVID-19 outbreak. Before we start, I would like to remind you that this webinar will be available on demand as a resource to guide companies as we are facing uncharted global challenge. So before we jump in, let me just introduce the speakers for today. First up, we have Lars Jefferson, the CEO and co-founder of TechOne Global, sharing his experience from C-suite perspective. We have Aruna Dayanatha, Director and Chief Conceptualist at Ritex Private Limited, discussing his experience as HR professional and imperative of HR digital transformation in today's context. We also have Lakma Lamboldenia, Assistant General Manager at Enadoc, joining with us to talk about best practices which HR professionals can adapt with the current COVID situation. And last but not least, we have our moderator for the day, Vasantha Veerakoon, CTO of Enadoc, joining us to moderate the panel today. Thank you all for joining today. How are you all doing?
Okay, so far so good.
We're doing good.
Great to hear, great to hear. So before we go in, I would like to hand over the floor to Lars so he can start off with his session.
Okay, thank you very much. I will try to get the presentation on here. So here you go. So the presentation, first of all, I would like to thank you for joining us, and for those who are listening in later, I hope that this presentation can help to make some sense out of the current situation, and maybe some of the things that we have learned in our company in the past you can bring in and help you in the current situation. I'm going to bring in 5 lessons from our own digital transformation story, and see how digital transformation has become very relevant in today's society. I will just back out a bit here and stop sharing. Maybe Vasantha, you can ask a few questions while I figure this out.
All right. Good morning, everyone. While Lars is getting ready, and I think for all the speakers for the panel, I want to just bring some. I'm sure we are all aware about what's going on, and I have a few questions that I'm planning to bring forward to you, so you can address while you are in the presentation. So one of that is you might have heard about this recent discussion about the patient 31 and people being irresponsible on an environment. Does that relate to even digital HR? That's I wanted to relate that, because when people work from home, when people work from not connected, how would people feel bound to a certain amount of responsibility? And I would like to you to address any one of you while you're talking about this.
Well, Vasantha, while Lars getting ready to shed a little light on the question you asked, I was just thinking, well, the patient 31 is going into the public without knowing, or either knowing or unknowingly, whether he is carrying COVID-19. But just take a situation of the behavior of social media, and how people share things in social media. So the next thing comes after detecting is to identify where he has been and who has he associated with, and that keeps that identifying that information about potential people who would get who would be infected is an important thing for HR. Okay, for HR as well as for the health authorities. So in my opinion, so take to track them where they are. They have been like, okay, on the Google, like look at their travel histories and going to social media and identify the posts, the locations where they have been, and they become very valuable information to tackle this situation, like, situations when we take this patient 31 situation. So leaving aside the others. So I think if people were on cloud, having their information, sharing their information, and social media, the HR would have that kind of information, like the recent situation in Sri Lanka. So it was very important to identify whom they have associated with. So that would become a good help for HR as well.
Okay, meanwhile, I think I have figured things out and can continue here. Thank you very much for filling in. So we are going to go through a number of learning from our own implementation of digital transformation. And one of the things is that, you have probably heard us talking about digital transformation, not only us, but many other technology companies over the past years. Some companies have taken the step and gone forward and really moved fast and took advantage of technology to drive their business. But many companies we have seen are have always been reluctant to go to a full digital transformation for various reasons. Maybe because some of the processes are not known and the outcomes are difficult to value as well. So we are taking a more pragmatic, more practical way to implementing digital transformation, trying to look at what is the reality of our life today. And if we start by looking at the three processes you normally break down digital transformation into, we start out by digitizing the past. And digitizing the past is very much related to converting legacy systems, paper-based workflows, paper-based transaction support into digital. Then looking at the present situation, how you can digitalize your workflow and your processes, and then driving through a digital transformation by creating the future. So lesson number one is around basically the first step. Does your company have a business continuity plan? Are you required to have one, either by your shareholders or your regulators? That might be the first thing you look at. If you look at HR, you are storing documents that have been supporting your HR function for years. And if your company has more than a few years of history, you'll have both active and inactive employees in your file. So by looking at that as a company asset, as a company basis, do you have the business continuity plan in place if something happens to your business tomorrow? And the things that can happen can be very varied, but the bottom line is that you should do something today that, in a week or 2 weeks time or 1 year's time, you say, great thing, we took that initiative because that saved us in this situation. And that's really because disasters happen every day. I didn't want to put a picture here of a coronavirus because I think that would maybe have been a little bit tasteless in the current situation. But the reality is that our world is full of elements that drive our business, and it just takes one small thing to break down the organization. And in this case, we are looking at a virus that will create some blockers for the business in some industries. In some countries, there's a full lockdown. People have been told not to go to the office and work from home. So if you are an HR professional, what are the tools that you need to have in place to allow you to work from home and to help your employees that you support to work from home and the management of the company? So the business continuity plan is not only about what happens if the filing room burns down or you have a water leakage, but in all kind of business situations, what is the business plan, business continuity plan that you can implement? So look at that in the whole view, and remember, today's disaster is coronavirus, but it doesn't mean that we are not going to have fires. There will be the same incidents happening in our world today as yesterday. It's just that we have one more element to deal with, so better be prepared for that. And the second learning is really just do it, get on with it. And why should you get on with it? And especially in HR, is because we are already dealing with a transformed society. When we have discussions about work from home right now, it is more about the company being ready than the employees being ready. The employees have, most of them, devices, they have internet access. You can see a lot of our students today in schools are being asked to homeschool for a few days or a few weeks while we get over this situation. So the society is already transformed. Our employees are mostly in the age of the millennials, and Gen Z is entering the workforce in another few years. And most people that we have working for us today, and most people in the population, are in the age that are digital natives. So they expect digital technology in the workplace. Now we are no longer talking about the business continuity. Now we are talking about being an attractive workplace, being able to retain people, and being able to manage your workforce in a way that makes the environment more productive and more conducive for the younger employees. When they go to the office, they should have similar technologies as available as they have at home. At home they will order their food using Uber Eats or other online delivery services. And if they want to go somewhere, they will call a cab via PickMe. They will not call. They will tap a location and ask to go here and there. So those are the technologies that they're used to. So when they get into the workforce, they don't know these technologies that some of our older generation know. I'm one of the senior citizens in our company, and when I started working on the first day when I was in my early 20s, I got a pager, I got a car phone, and at home, and there was a cassette player in my car. Those are the things. When I grew up, we took typewriting classes. This number in red is a number of people in our age group, in the millennials or in the younger generation, who would not recognize what that technology is. If they were showing a pager, 86% of them would not know what it is. So that's how distant we are from the environment. So lesson number 2 is really do it already, because our employees are already there. Business lesson number 1 is we need to be able to run our business independent on physically being in the office, and we need to make sure the foundation of our company is solid by transforming our legacy systems into digital. Lesson number 3 is that now we have all these technologies available and our employees have technologies in their hand. What are they going to do with it? Are they going to play Candy Crush? I'm sure that you recognize that the most use of the technology we have today is entertainment. People are looking at memes about cats. I don't know, cats seem to be very popular in this environment, whether it's because they look cute or because they can say something for us. I don't know. But these are the style of implementation technology has today. But if we deploy technology in the company, if we digitally transform our company, the devices could be used to create better insight and better data. This is just an example of an HR dashboard that you could have if you had a digital HR system to support you. So lesson number 3 is really about that. Use technology to give you insight and drive business processes, and don't use technology to play YouTube and Spotify and whatever technology entertainment people have. Technology can be a great learning tool, but it also is a great tool to help you to create insight and help you to drive business process and outcomes. Lesson number 4 is that when we started our digital transformation project, we recognized that there's definitely a need for change management. And the older the organization, the more change management you need to do. If you have a startup company, digital technology is a part of it's in the genes of or in the genes of those companies. These companies, they are built up from technology and from people with laptops and work from home. But if you take an older organization, then you might want to look at some of the more formal change management processes. Otherwise, you will end up dealing with many levels of people in your organization, from the person who say, I don't want to do it, right? But if you go through the process in a proper way, you can move these people from I don't want to do it to yes, I did it. And that's really the recognition of I did something with the technology and it worked and it helped me. And that's a success you will see from the implementation of technology. So a part of that is you cannot change too many things at the same time. Choose what we call hero applications. And we are talking about 2 hero applications in our company. We have almost taken email out of the game. I mean, we use email to communicate externally, but SMS, Viber, WhatsApp is, I would consider it today, it's banned. In the start of this process, it was highly discouraged. But with the recent, spy attack inside WhatsApp and Viber, we have and the SIM hijacking that's happening, we have taken these out of our office. How did we do that? Well, first of all, the management have decided that, okay, if somebody sends a WhatsApp message, we don't reply to it in WhatsApp. We copy it and paste it into Teams and reply there. The same thing with Enadoc, implemented Enadoc across our organization in HR and finance and operations. It should be a part of the of the company's processes that all documents should be scanned immediately, so they are safe in the cloud. It saves your work processes. It keeps you in a redundant environment. And today, these 2 applications have made it possible for our company to work from home. Actually, there's nobody in our company today, except for the people who, basically clean the office, who need to go to the office, and there's nobody else in the office, so they don't need to go as well. In this environment, where we have in some of the countries, for example, in Philippines, almost 100% lockdown and all offices are closed, our staff can continue their work at home. Unfortunately, some of our clients are in a similar situation, and those who are not, we are, in the process of helping to bring them on board with these technologies. So the last lesson is really that technology, while you might think that the young people in your organization are those who will drive it, it's really the leadership of the company. It's a senior management who have to get on board first. You cannot drive change from hiring or giving this project to one of the junior people and say, oh, you're good with tech and you're good with people, why don't you drive this? No, this has to be driven from the senior people in the company. So that's the first part of my presentation. I don't know if any of you have any questions at this point. Before I want to show a few things that we have done with these 2 products. But before that, Vasantha, I don't know if you have some questions, or Aruna or anybody else.
Yes, Lars, I do have a question now. This enabling digital HR, make it easier for people to work from home, or especially, it is very relevant to today's situation. But what do you think the role of governments in helping this whole digital HR process? Because, since now the attention to digital HR probably is coming just because there's a situation around the world. But do you think there was enough attention by governments to put the legislations and the rules and things what is required to operate these things in place before, or do you see that it's happening some in the places?
It's happening in Philippines. There was a work from home or remote working act that was not finalized, but has been pushed through in the last week to make sure that there is a framework for working at home. Definitely there are many challenges in terms of the legal framework to work from home. But I think in today's environment, we might not directly need any law to allow people to work from home. But we need company policies, and in our company we have had a work from home policy for quite some time, and we have revised it with the current situation to reflect, that our people might have to work home for a longer time. I think the legal part of it is one thing, but get work done and get the right work done at the right time, and motivation, leadership, that's much more the concern that I can see. We can talk about the coronavirus on one side, but on the other side we have the corona blues, where people are working at home, they lean in too much to social media, and they watch too much of horror movies, and because of that they get depressed. So depression is a real issue that you have to deal with people working from home. They might not have the same pickup that somebody in the office might say, hey, what's wrong with you? You don't look good. Let's have a chat. That might not happen with people working remotely. So there's a bigger responsibility on the leadership to connect with each individual employee on a regular basis. And technology can help us there. Like in our company, we had a town hall meeting yesterday for all employees to discuss the initiatives of the company in this situation, and what are the framework of working from home, and what are the opportunities for the company in this situation. I think for employees, working from home has some benefits as well, in terms of more time, less time spent on commuting. So I'm not sure the legal framework where we need to have it, but it should be there. But I don't think it should be a stopper right now. Right now, the company policy should be in place so the employees know what to do. That would be my long answer to that question.
Thank you, Lars. You can go ahead.
Okay, all right. So if you look at the solutions we have been using, basically Microsoft Teams and Enodoc has been two solutions that has been driving our digital transformation, and really, I would say nothing much to do with work from home. It just happens to be that the modern way of working is to enable people to work remotely. So it happened to be that how we have designed our organization today with these applications do allow people to work from home as well. And one of the benefits with Teams is that it is enabled on many devices. You can use a phone, you can use a tablet from any operating system, you can use Mac, you can use PC, you can use a Chromebook. So multiple devices are supported, and that means that people can use the smartphone they already have. They don't need to have a dedicated device or dedicated PC to be able to use this. So that means that all the features are there, the call features, like this call right now is done on Teams. So we are creating a broadcast. I'm sitting in my office, in my home office in Philippines. The coordinator of the event is Reshika and Aruna. They're sitting in our office in Sri Lanka, and Vasanta is sitting in his house in Malawi. And then we have Ara on the call as well. She's sitting in a different province in the Philippines. And we are all really here talking like if we were sitting in the same room. And that's because the multiple devices are bringing this in. People can call into this meeting using even a landline, because there will be a number to call in. So Teams are facilitating that. So that's the first thing I would say, which is great about Teams. It is available on all the devices. The other thing is that we have decided that every meeting should be a Teams meeting. So that means that everybody can always call in. If there is a meeting, then you cannot attend for whatever reason, you can call in. The whole idea now, for example, of work from home, whether you're working from home because of you need some focus time, or because you have an inconvenience to go to the office. Could be transportation, for example. It could be weather. It could be sick parents or sick child that you have to make sure that you stay close to. Or you might be feeling a bit under the weather yourself. Really, you feel well enough to go to work, but you don't want to take the risk of transmitting anything to anybody else. Now, if the meeting is already done as a team meeting, you can easily join in. You can share a chat. You can share information, you can share presentations, and suddenly the whole thing becomes much more dynamic. And you can also record the meeting in Teams. So in the background there are a recording feature that you could record a meeting. I made a small little yellow arrow in the bottom here. So invest in a dial-in number because it's a little extra cost you have to pay in Teams. But that means that people with a normal phone line could simply dial into the meeting and listen to the audio and continue and dial in and talk in the conversation. If you look at the other features in Teams, we have also enabled a bot in our so basically a automated process. It's not really a robot, but it's a bot. In this case, we are using it to order food, so our employees can order the food that they need for their lunch. The person who's collecting the information has a small dashboard and can see, what to prepare or what to buy. It could have been on anything else. You could have transportation. You could have meeting rooms. So many other things you could have done. But that's a cool thing about Teams is that you actually have a bot a framework there as well that you can develop. And if you use one of the products from us called Flodo, you could actually create workflow and then execute the workflow inside Teams as a bot. We do this live events. This is today a live event that we are having here. And when you do a live event, the event is recorded and it is transcribed. That means later on you can actually get the transcribed text out of it with the automated transcription based on the recording that was done. Quite interesting and super effective. It also has a subtitling, so you could actually have people listening into your presentation. And the same thing, for example, if you watch some YouTube videos and you want to have subtitles so you don't have to disturb other people with the sound, you can actually see the subtitle, what is being said during that presentation. So quite a cool feature. And last thing I want to, not the last, I have one more actually, but the fifth point is we know that Microsoft Office has collaboration features. We know that if you sit inside Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel or PowerPoint, that you can invite a collaborator on that. But it's a very less used feature. It's very few people who are actually using co-authoring. But it's surprising how effective that actually is when you are doing it in Teams. So in this case, Katrina is one of our marketing people. She's in our design team. And whenever I do a presentation, for example, like this one, I would come up with a skeleton presentation and I will share it with her in a chat. And as we develop the presentation, both of us are working on the same presentation format. So that enables a much better collaboration than sending the file forth and back with email. The last slide in this part of the deck is about the Power BI dashboard. Actually, the interesting thing is that when you have a Teams group, in this case, we're using Teams for our business reviews, you can actually bring in those standard dashboard or standard files that is being needed in every review. So they become simply tabs inside a team. So you can imagine how many things you can do here, even in education and in your office. There's thousands of apps inside Teams that you can add here to enable your meeting to be more effective. Going to Enodoc, we have a specific version of Enodoc for HR. And Inadoc is a quite comprehensive platform product for document management and content management. But what we have done is we have extracted some of the features which are more relevant to HR and created basically you could say it's a kind of a shell around Inadoc that allows you to use Inadoc features more easily for HR. So Inadoc is the place that you can securely store your documents in the cloud and access them from anywhere at any time. You don't anymore have to take photocopies or go to the filing room, bring back the documents, take a photocopy, put it back, do annotation, add another document. Everything is there. Everything is scanned. High quality, can be printed, forwarded at any time what you need, and with the very secure access. So only the people who are authorized to access a document have access, unlike your traditional filing system where anybody can see documents which are placed on the table. When you go out for lunch, you might have some documents at the table. This enables a more privacy and more compliance with data privacy as well. Inadoc has a dashboard, so when HR logs in, there's a dashboard which is more relevant to HR, and from here you can upload documents using different technologies. We even have a mobile app as well, where you can scan documents. Unlike using your normal camera on your phone, the mobile app we have has a privacy and compliance because documents are not stored on the device itself. So when you scan a document using our mobile, even our scanner function, the documents go straight into Inadoc and do not store anything on the local device. So if you scan documents with your private phone or private smartphone, you don't end up with the same documents in your camera roll. So that's an important part of keeping things, compliant. We have a very interesting feature, which is our tag cloud. And the idea here is that we use the tags to intelligently present the most relevant information to the person who's looking for the documents right now. And simply by clicking on one of these documents or one of these tags, you can get to the next level. So most of the documents you find, you will be able to find within 2 or 3 clicks. So without even searching for the documents, you can use a tablet or a mobile phone easily. But even on a PC, you can simply use your mouse and click, click, click. You would be able to find the documents within 2 or 3 clicks. Once document has been found, you have all the standard features you would expect. You can print it, you can email it, you can download it, all depending on your relevant security clearance on the specific document. And when documents are being released in electronic format, they can be included with a security code that basically allows you to track that document or see who has released that document. And you can also put watermarks so you can see who printed the document or forwarded the document. So we have a number of security features around that. So that was really all of my presentation. If you have any questions, anyway, you can connect with me here in LinkedIn. My code is there. You can just scan that, and I will open the floor for any questions.
All right. I don't think I have any questions for the time being, but maybe I will consolidate my questions later. So, Rishika, you can continue.
All right. We have the next speaker lined up, Mr. Aruna Dayanatha. Sharing his insights in terms of his experience as a HR professional.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to talk about the digital transformation, and it's an imperative today. And let's try to understand some of the expectations and possibilities. Actually, I thought I would bring in something that circulated in the social media recently. So look at this email from an employee, right, saying that potentially he might be infected with coronavirus and requesting 20 days leave. And then the reply from the witty reply from the HR. So we have allowed everyone to work from home. So now, since you are infected, you come and work in the office. So anyway, so this is the whatever the sense of humor that they are bringing up, there is a hidden message. Yes, the work from office is a solution to coronavirus. So that is a big message to HR. HR is supposed to be the department or the function who looks at how the work happens inside firm. And unfortunately, there's this allegation about on HR. HR is in the cloud. Okay, so this is not the modern day cloud, the contemporary cloud that we are looking at. So it can be explained like this: like HR is up on the cloud and they don't know what about the employees at the ground, and when there's something wrong, the HR points finger at the employee, maybe conduct a disciplinary inquiry. So this is a perception that the employees are having. There are lots of sarcasm here. So this is a big challenge to HR. And I see a bigger opportunity in digital transformation. So allowing the HR can kill this perception through digital transformation. And also, how they're going to do it is HR basically provide lots of services to employees. So that's why, apart from the being a regulator of employment from the labor law side, HR provides lots of services to employees. So through digital transformation, what HR should do is offer all the HR services, find means to offer all the HR services through information system. So this phenomena is identified as consumerization of HR. So the consumerization is the HR to perceive the employees as consumers and provide the services. Take the example of any IT company today, IT services company today, they are providing the services through internet or through information services. So when the digital transformation occurs, essentially there are three benefits that the HR should look at. So that is, one is automate whatever thing that you are doing, whatever possible things, and eliminate the human effort, human intervention. So let the system take care of it. And then look for additional information, the information that you did not have earlier in your hand. So they can be generated through digital transformation. So then you would be able to make greater insights about the business, what factors has to be adjusted and in order to get better benefits towards the business. And then transform. Like, so maybe change the way how things happen, give people a new experience. Just like in Facebook, they were having this like button, and that's how they change it to expressing feelings, emotion. So look at things like that and transform how people interact with HR. So this is basically the benefits that the HR should expect from the digital transformation. So in order to get this benefit, an important initiative from HR is take the HRIS, that is the information system, to the cloud. So this is opposed to HR sitting on the cloud. So take the information or the HRIS, HR activities, HR services to the cloud. So the employees can get it from anywhere. The consumerization of human resources, that means HR employees can get the services from anywhere through the information system. So that's an important aspect in today's context as well. If you do not have the HRIS on the cloud, you can take the data, the most essential data, to run the HR department in day-to-day onto cloud. Right? So then work from there. So then the HR department, employees in the HR department can work from anywhere. So likewise, the first thing is to take data and information onto the cloud. And if you look at the advantages, I'm not going to go into detail in every point. So these are some of the advantages that you get when you take your activity onto the cloud, right? It's cost effective, data availability for remote works, and like Okay, so eliminate paper. This I just want to shed light on this. I think Lance also highlighted this one. So likewise, there are lots of benefit that companies can get, HR can get when they move onto cloud. So this is something that I really like in cloud, that was eliminate paper from your operation. So when you eliminate, it is expected that you can reduce the cost in the range of about 15%. So in last presentation, he explained how Inadoc facilitate this operation, right? So that is the history of historical paper, and also the present paper generation also can be handled inside Inadoc can, facilitate a paperless world inside our firm. So HR should ideally pursue this benefit towards the business. And shifting from, like, when you put things on the cloud, right, that facilitate the mobility. So as in Lance's presentation also, he explained, right, how you can access the information in cloud and the documents in the cloud with the multiple devices. So you can access it from your laptop, desktop, the phone, tab, anything. So this facilitate the global mobile workforce, like where the people, like, okay, you look at the Gen Y and Gen Z, so they always work with the mobile, right? So setting up of appointments, like, they work quickly, make decisions quickly using the mobile phone. So now the HR also has to be there. I'm not going to elaborate on that. I'm not going to harp on that, because Lance explained that the future generation, the future workforce is there. That is the global mobile workforce that HR has to work with. So in today's context, right? So if you want to go into the cloud and provide mobility, so you might think of that as a very big initiative. I don't think so. So as the Microsoft team and the other facilities that's available, like, you can search the net. There are already established facilities. You can simply start by subscribing, even for collaboration. There are facilities that you can do collaboration with a tool like collaborative mind mapping. So that facilitate the global and mobile workforce. So basically through this, right, we are looking at, like, we are doing this webinar today, right? So the Philippines, Sri Lanka, and we don't know from where the people would be joining that, because this was published in LinkedIn and social media. So this initiative has used the power of social media to propagate this idea, right? And the global teams and virtual teams are becoming more and more relevant in today's context. Sometimes one of your employees today might be stuck in Malaysia or India or Singapore, because their countries have shut down. They can't come back. They can't finish them. They can't join physically in your workplace. So they then extend this the virtual teams. So basically, the benefit is make the location relevant. So actually, the HR are supposed to be the champions of change. They have they are taught, they are given the skills of change management. So you have to make a specific change in your policies. So the location where the people work is not relevant. What is relevant is the result that they bring in. So when you put your data, when you put your information system on the cloud and you facilitate mobility, so that makes the location irrelevant, so people can work from home. That is being demanded by the environment, demanded by the nature today. So we have to go along with it in digital transformation. So we can't reject that. We are forced to do it. So we have to start with the available applications, do a little research on internet, find what type of a feature you want. You want a feature like Facebook? Well, if you don't want to go into Facebook, there are alternatives for Facebook. If you want to use WhatsApp and you say WhatsApp is not secure, there are alternatives to WhatsApp. So you can use Microsoft Teams, like, and search the Microsoft repository. There would be enough facilities on the cloud. Just imagine, take an example. This event was first planned as a physical meeting. Right, then we faced this corona breakout. Within, I think, about 2-3 days, the decisions were made to take this on a virtual platform. Right? So that simply because the software was available on the cloud. So there are enough software to facilitate the mobility. If you want to start work from home initiative right now, there are software, there are secured software, there are low cost software. You can take them to get them to facilitate work from home initiatives. So the mobile and cloud computing, so together gives you immense benefit to today's situation where we need the people to work from home. So yesterday night I have seen many management, they were exchanging ideas through the WhatsApp and social media and just discussing, and even with the phone calls and trying to decide, okay, who should come to work today. So in Sri Lanka, there are situations similar to patient 31 and how we are going to handle it, who should be excluded, who's potentially be infected. Likewise, those decisions were made using this the available facilities. Right? And when you bring the systems and data onto the cloud, and when you facilitate, when people start using them through their mobile, so maybe mobile devices, then it opens up a great opportunity for HR to implement analytics, identify people, what they do, what their preferences, what works, what won't, what will have an impact on business. Likewise, do different analysis and find out, okay, so different levels of analytics, describe what's happening, or predict what's going to happen, or prescribe a solution to a problem. All those possibilities become viable. They open up when you bring the data and your systems onto the cloud and implement, facilitate mobility, and it will open up opportunities for analytics. So this is the descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. I think they are all the types of information that we require to run our business on day-to-day situations. And also, we live in the era of surveillance capitalism. So the big IT companies, like, who have the information, their applications on cloud, they sell the people behavior. That's how they make money. But I'm not asking HR to make money out of people's behavioral information, behavioral data. Use those analytics. Use the concepts of surveillance capitalism and get to know people. Right? Even under the surveillance capitalism operates in the era of big data. The big data, by definition, is moving away from working with digits. If you want to analyze, as Lance said, okay, if you want to transcribe discussion that we are doing today, it's available, automated. Simply do it with Microsoft Teams. Or if you want to collaborate, if you want that is digits, and also if you want to analyze the photographs of the people, their faces, the feelings, and if you want to analyze videos, so all those things are possible with big data. So those are the additional power that we get when you have your data, your systems on cloud and allow mobility. And we are coming into the insights generating from analytics, the new age. So it's the computer will tell you, okay, so this correlations or the analysis. Okay, so this is an insight generated from the data. So the decision or an understanding insight that usually HR would gain well over, we say, 2-3 hours will be possible within press of a button. So this is the era of analytics, and this HR has to get the benefit out of this dynamic as well. And connecting, HR should connect with people through social media in this setup of cloud, the mobile and analytic world. So that's the best. Through my experience, I have worked with companies where the workforce is all over the country, spread around close to 200 places. So to make sure that the problems that these people in Jaffna, employees in Jaffna face, they come into a Facebook chat, Facebook Messenger, and discuss with me. Maybe sometimes at midnight, the HR manager is working right throughout on the social media. So that the next day when I come to office, I know that the problem has to be solved. So it's a good way of connecting, good way of getting to know people. And also sometimes I have used the social media to clear out the clutter in people's meanings, having discussions in social media. So that's a specific group of employees. So we are having a discussion, and it's freely we can have a chat on social media. If you don't like Facebook, if you don't like LinkedIn, look for private social media. If you don't like the public cloud, you can use private cloud. You can open up secured clouds only for you. So the technology is matured. So now it's time that the HR connect with people through social media. There are so many benefits, so many HR transformations through this digital transformation. Right? So okay, talent management, maybe through LinkedIn, right? So that's one good way of getting connected to the global and mobile talent pool. And I'm not going to explain this framework. So this is called flexible accumulation. You can see the center circle in the center. That is the core group of people that you will be recruiting. Right? So the others will not be in 100% or full time working with you. That is these things that we are discussing. Right? Will you provide the opportunities to reduce this core group and pass the work on to other possibilities. So this is a kind of an old model discussed in 1989, but still with digital transformation, we have the possibility of reducing the core group and getting the work done from other possible alternative avenues. This is a good insight for HR. In Facebook, sometimes back about 3-4 years back, an American was commenting, I wanted to get a website done. I subcontracted, I handed it over to a freelancer in Thailand, and I slept. The next day when I got up, my website is up and running. How fascinating this is. Even though I was sleeping, my business is working in the other side of the globe. So that is the possibility that opens up with all this, the cloud, the mobility, analytics, and social media transformations. And also when you are building the talent pipeline, so you get through social media, you get the opportunity to connect to the potential employees, your present employees, and your former employees. So don't say that when the employee has resigned and gone, we are no longer dealing with them. No. So they will go, the contemporary HR policies looks at them as a future employees as well. So they can go out, get better experience, get a different experience, and if you can rehire them, well, that will add on to the talent pool. So the social media provides you to the possibility of connecting or having a very well proactive talent pipeline, and also to keep the employees engaged, analyzing through analytics and through gamification. So the gamification is not about getting them to play game, but to implement the gaming elements at work. So some IT companies are using, I know they are using in Sri Lanka, right? So to how to motivate them, get them engaged in their roles, right? And basically, this is a way of designing happiness. There's a big science behind gamification. Gamification is made possible when you have your information on the cloud, and when you have the mobility facilitated, and when you have analytics of people, and when you're on social media, this becomes possible. And also, you can use gamification to change the behavior of habit. So if some people have a reluctance, they don't want to come into work with the work from home initiatives, maybe you can use gamification approach as a strategy to motivate them to change their behavior to adapt into work from home initiatives. So that is in digital transformation, you can use gamification. And gamification is identified as the best tool for Gen Y and Z, right? Cannot forget them as well. And this is something that is identified as something that every C-suite executive should have in their toolbox. So that's going to be the future. So this is possible with the things that we have been discussing. And look at this one, like all the IT professionals are aware of this Stack Overflow, because this is a subset of Stack Exchange. I put this in as a crowd-solving mechanism. HR, every day, employee come to HR with lots of problems. Sometimes the HR says, last week I advised you of this problem, but you are again and coming and asking the same thing. The Stack Overflow is a strategy or is a website where IT people solve their problems. So the HR can adapt this. There are alternative sites, alternative tools like Stack Overflow. So you can adapt them, you can simply implement them. So the people will solve their problems among themselves. That is the concept of crowd solving. So the people who give wrong answers, wrong solutions, inferior solutions will be rated down, and people who give good viable solutions will be rated up. They'll be get reputation points, badges, and the status within this crowd solving platform. So that's a good, you can have it on the cloud, and you can have all this analytics and facilitated through mobility and incorporated that in the social media. So this provide more possibilities to analytics and mobile interaction, so that there are many benefits that you can get from all this digital transformation. The whole thing, the four things that I discussed with you now are commonly identified as SMAC. It's not the same order. I put them into a different order to explain you with some sort of an interrelation. Social, mobile, analytics, and cloud is the SMAC. And if you want more information, go to the internet where all the information is in cloud. Search SMAC for HR. So you would find enormous amount of knowledge about this thing. There would be challenges. I didn't want to skip this part. I want to caution, there are challenges in digital transformation for HR. So when you're going to do this digital transformation, it's a whole new way of looking at the work. It's a whole new way of looking at the employer-employee relationship. It's not the old traditional HR practices. There are the paradigm shifts you have to make, and there are new policies you have to make, and new programs you have to initiate, and likewise. So I don't have much of a time, but I just thought of highlighting you. You have new terms of employment. This digital transformation will open up for HR to introduce new terms of employment into their maybe letter of appointment, the contract of employment, because the liabilities, the arrangements, the commitment that they should give would be different, and they might be different to the existing the labor legislation, the labor law, right? So The labor law gives you the minimum requirement. You can give better terms through the contract of employment to employees in the digital transformation. And the HR has to protect the digital assets. Whatever you are putting on the cloud is digital assets. Right? You have to come up with policies to safeguard these digital assets, and also the information become liberalized. The phenomena of information liberalization it's like Wikipedia, WikiLeaks, right? So all of a sudden, your information, the corporate information, might get liberalized, and they will fly out of your storage, your cloud. So that's a phenomena that you have to handle. And when you are discussing the information system security, that's a phenomena that we discussed called social engineering. So this is okay, I have skipped one point. The social engineering is one risk that the technology cannot manage. How you socially engineer someone to steal the corporate data, copy that into your pen drive or maybe to your mobile and bring it out and give to someone else. So this is social engineering. But the tools to prevent social engineering lies only with HR. Enhance the employee engagement, enhance employee commitment, keep positive relationship between the employee and the company. So the people will not be socially engineered to make losses to the company. So this is available in the day-to-day toolkit of HR. So in the digital transformation, not only the digital transformation help HR, there are HR concepts that help digital transformation as well, enrich digital transformation. Lance was talking about the change management. That is available as a default skill with HR professionals. How to make a change, how you facilitate the moment of I can't do from I will do within the person. So that is usually labeled as organizational development. So that the things are skills, so the facilities, knowledge are complementing. And also the glass door effect. Right, when you are keeping things open, right? So that kind of open up the organization. Like I took this term Glassdoor effect. There's a website called Glassdoor. Employees talk about the company openly. So now that is also related to information liberalization. And also at the cessation, when an employee resigns or terminated or retired, what are the things that HR has to do? They will be different. The assets that were handed over to will not be physical during the employment. Even the access rights has to be granted, and they have to be revoked appropriately. And also, where they have stored the company information in their personal devices has to be cleaned. So likewise, there would be cessation handling impacts in digital transformation as well. And another thing is the employer brand. Right? There would be malicious people who would want to kill your employer brand. Employer brand is not belonging to the marketing department. Employer brand is to be handled by the HR department. Under the digital transformation, when you take your activities onto the cloud and allow the people mobility and the social media, so it opens up. You are working in employer branding. So you can use the employers uplifting of employer branding in this SMAC framework. At the same time, you have to be vigilant and protect the employer branding, as safeguard the employer branding as well. And another important area, disciplinary actions with digital artifacts. That is something the contemporary HR departments might not have thought of. I have gone through experiences in certain places. Actually, I have stopped people getting fired, losing their employments. So simply because of within the digital transformation, it is not the employee's fault, it is the fault of the system. So the HR need new set of skills to do this, and sometimes the inquiry officer who has no clue about digital has to be convinced with digital evidences. That gives lots of challenges to HR as well. Finally, something that HR professionals should look at when it comes to digital transformation, like be cautioned of. Digital transformation will humanize the work. The people don't like them to be treated like commodities. So this is a negative impact of analytics culture. Right? So HR has to specifically look for how you keep in touch. So that's where the strategies like gamification comes into play. Right? Keep people happy. Look at, not to do everything with analytics, but create the thing that we call as the happiness and cuddle. That is, okay, the two hormones of dopamine and oxytocin. Right? They get triggered with social media. So HR has to look at those possibilities as well. Create happiness with in the same way as you use analytics to make decisions and get to know the workforce, and how people and technology interface in the long run. This is basically the IT professional will say, okay, this is UX, user experience. Right? So HR will have to get into assess that as well. Like, it's not simply the gone are the days that you have all boring interface in the IT systems. So you need to have good user experience, create a good user experience through when it comes to people interact with the technology, when people interface with the technology. HR has to look into this. And they need to take initiatives to improve the people's experience when they are interacting with the technology. So to do that, the HR professionals need the special capabilities. So HR not only to manage, analyze, and report data, right? Not only to look at the technology interface. So there are new skills that the HR professional should be equipped with. So this HR professional should look into them. Right? Go to net. Okay, the information are available on the cloud, information are available in social media. Right? Maybe you subscribe to an online course that you will never be able to go and attend in America, in the maybe University of Stanford University. They are available through internet. Learn it. You can, with low cost, you should be able to learn those things and gather these skills. So the HR professional will have the professional capability to support the digital transformation. So this finding are from CIPD, Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. That is the UK Charter for HR. Right. So it is something that the HR professional should be aware of, understand, and work towards within digital transformation. I think that would I should be finishing my time, and thank you very much, and I'd be more than happy to answer if there are any queries, questions, or clarifications.
Thank you, Aruna. Vasantha, do you have any questions to ask from Aruna?
I think I will let Lakmal also continue. So then in the discussion, I will raise a few things. It was very interesting. Aruna was bringing in very, very interesting technical stuff. But I would like to ask at the end some questions. Yeah.
Great, great. Thank you, Aruna, for sharing very insightful information with us. Next up, we have Lakmal joining with us to talk about best practices in terms of adapting digital transformation for HR professionals.
Thank you, Rashika. I think you have gone through a fruitful session with Laz and Aruna on what are the technologies, how you can adopt certain concepts and phenomena into digital HR and so on and so forth. So I was thinking of kind of summarize certain things that Laz and Aruna were saying, and at the same time looking at the perspective of information security, cyber security, and how we can make sure that we are complied, or how we can maintain the due diligence with digital HR. So when it comes to due diligence, you have to make certain practices, you have to make sure that certain things are in place, and in order to do that, definitely you need help. Everyone need help, because you and me, when it comes to certain domains, there are certain areas, certain specific things, that there are certain experts who are in the industry in certain organizations like Tech1, Sanjay, and Enadoc, and so on and so forth, who would support to make sure that you are going in the right way. So due diligence is very important when it comes to digital HR. I know there are certain queries coming in which is related to the security, the different domains, the verticals of the organization, and so on and so forth, and how it is applicable for this kind of things. So I will start with number one, basics of future-proof transformation when you are going through this digital HR. So from the perspective of our information security and compliance, so it's very important to have 5 basic things in place. Organizational policies and procedures. Yes, of course, as Lars mentioned very clearly and precisely, it is something that has to be initiated from the senior management and driven by the senior management to make sure that the organization is fully transformed. So organizational policies and procedures are very important before we start going on to this. And as he was saying, so even as Tech1, as an organization, a group of companies, of course, we have already adopted certain policies on work from home, the remote access, and so on and so forth. So that is how it has made this particular moment. Even I am presenting today from my home. So basically, the things that I will be talking throughout this slide, couple of slides. So you can, we have make sure that, okay, whatever things that we are talking is practical and it is possible. As he was saying, okay, we are geographically apart from and different places, but we are managing to deliver this session as of that we are working from one single location. And number 2 is technology readiness. Of course, when it comes to technology readiness, yes, it is the world and globe is full with many technologies that can be used for working from home, working from anywhere, and adopt digital HR practices, and so on and so forth. So it's matter of identifying which technologies are relevant for you and how you can utilize these technologies to make sure that you are addressing the organizational policies and procedures when you are going into the digital HR. And thirdly, very important, the cyber security readiness. Of course, when you have a lot of technologies involved, when people are working from different places, it is little difficult for organization information security professionals to make sure that security is in place and make sure that you are maintaining your confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the organizational information when you go into this. So I will talk about little things about how we can make sure that this is there. And last but not least, this education and awareness. Of course, when it comes to digital HR, digital transformation, employee empowerment, as Aruna was clearly said, yes, it is in the jargon of human resource personnel. So they have to make sure that, okay, they bring this education and awareness component of the organization to their hands and deliver it properly to make sure that they have their employees empowered, and employees are having the respective knowledge and the competency to transform themselves. And lastly, the user readiness. Irrespective of whatever you have, the organization policies, technology, cybersecurity readiness, education and awareness, at the same time, you have to make sure the user is ready to transform. So as Lars was saying, so it is difficult for organizations which was there for a longer time, and it is very easy for organizations which just started, the startups, and which is not there, but still it's possible. And Aruna was showing you, okay, how you can transform these people into this kind of digitally enabled personnel, so that yes, user readiness is also important. So if I'm to little bit go into the organizational policies and procedures, so it is eminent that you always comply to the regulatory requirements, your countries, the local laws, local regulatories, and you have to maintain certain standards related to your domain, your industry. And at the same time, you have to be complied to certain areas to make sure that you are running the business right. So when it comes to organizational policies and procedures, okay, the number one thing is making sure that you are complied to all of these. And next, as Lars mentioned in the very beginning of the slides, the session, the business continuity planning. This is very important for any organization. So you have to kind of come up with the business impact analysis, and you have to identify the minimal viable services, the minimal requirement to run your organization further, and so on and so forth. So it's important to have a business continuity plan done beforehand when you go into the digital, the working from home, and all of these. Because you remember when it comes to the 9/11, which happened some time back in US, so most of the organizations which were there in the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers, went out of the business. What was the reason? Because most of the organizations were not focusing on business continuity planning. Yes, they had certain policies available just to make sure that they are complied with having the documentation and so on and so forth, but they have never tested it. So when the right time, so you know what has happened in Sri Lanka and most of the countries like Canada, even they have shut down the country. Malaysia has shut down the country as well. So now it's the time. Now most of the people are waiting until the last moment to test the business continuity plan. So when the business continuity is impacted, like this moment as this COVID-19 pandemic is happening, so it's little late for you sometimes for you to start or operationalize the business continuity plan, because most of the people will not be aware of it, and certain people who are supposed to take actions are not there, and there's no kind of chain of command who would take action on behalf of the personnel who is absent. So it is relevant and it is very important to have a business continuity plan which is prepared and tested. And when it comes to the next thing, it's disaster recovery. So this is kind of a disaster scenario. So of course, disaster recovery is a part of the business continuity planning. And along with these kind of policies, of course, nowadays it's very important for organizations to have some policies like bring your own device, or maybe devices. You know, I mean, currently more than what organizations can provide to employees, the employees having their own personal devices, which is much more powerful to operate. And when you are working from home, you are pretty much very familiar with whatever the personal device or devices you have. It can be a desktop, it can be a laptop, a mobile phone, iPad, or so and so forth. So mainly when it comes to your employees, they may have their own preference when they work from home or anywhere, and they would like to carry a desktop or a laptop which is heavier to wherever they go. Rather than that, they may have an iPad or maybe an Android device or a mobile, which is easier for them to use from anywhere. And on top of that, it is very important to have a remote working policy. So there are certain practices, the best practices of the industry, best practices of the organization, and based on certain regulatory or compliance requirements, the employees will have to use certain things and do certain things. And for example, if you work happen to work for Microsoft, you know, I mean, there are certain instances where your mobile has to be connected with a operating service, and simply when you are entering couple of times the wrong pin number or password, or simply at the fifth or 10th time, it will definitely delete the content relevant to the organization from the phone. So likewise, there needs to be certain remote working policies and best practices when you work out of the office, to make sure that okay, your employees are adopting to the best practices which complied, making sure that your organization is complied to regulatory and standards and the compliances. And more than that, when it comes to organization and policies and procedures, it's one thing that you have to identify a team of people, or maybe a mechanism to automate the business processes. Of course, when it comes to these kind of things, it's relevant to have a kind of toolkit, tool set for you to support on these areas. And of course, there are a lot of tools out there, and as Lars was mentioning, the Microsoft Teams is a good tool to kind of do process automation with their bot platform and the capabilities of it. And at the same time, there are certain business process automation specific applications like our own product, the Flowdo, and so on and so forth, which is available for organizations to do some business process automation to make sure that okay, you are ready for the disaster or the business continuity. The second area is the technology readiness. So of course, when it comes to technology readiness, I'm talking about mostly about the infrastructure. So you know, okay, when it comes to infrastructure, any traditional organization has their organizational perimeter, because they have their own servers, the resources running on top of their servers inside the data center or a network room, or they have their own firewalls, the VPNs, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, you know, okay, most of the organization nowadays has moved into a kind of a hybrid scenario where when it comes to remote access facilitation, so it includes internal as well as external components. And there are certain things, okay, sometimes you block certain access to employees where, okay, you can only access when you're only at the office. So when you are looking at the remote access facilitation, you have to definitely look into the internal as well as external access facilitation, which is cloud services. So of course, you have to make sure that whenever you are allowing personnel to work from anywhere, okay, the same access is being given to the person to work from anywhere as well, or maybe similar access. So maybe there are certain things that you will not be able to allow him to view when you are outside, but at the same time you have to make sure that okay, he has given sufficient access and the infrastructure is adequately available for them to work from anywhere. When it comes to technology readiness, of course, it's very pretty much important to look into moving to cloud infrastructure. So that is one of the key things that mentioned by Lars as well as Aruna on this particular moment. So that okay, when it comes to technology readiness, yes, now most of the people has looked into moving their resources and infrastructure to cloud. So a good example is okay, Microsoft Teams, of course, Microsoft Azure. So that there are a lot of services which is more than what you can have in your local infrastructure is available in cloud. So if I'm to go into the next component, give me a second on this.
Until Lakmal get back, why don't we just answer a few questions which came through our audience today? Will they be all right? Are you all ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so I'm just going to take one of the questions. Okay. Do some HR professionals feel digitalization is outside their remit?
I think they do. I don't think all of them do, but I think we have seen in the past years, maybe the past 5 to 10 years, that more and more IT decisions are being taken by the users. It used to be the CIO, the IT department, who would bring solutions to finance department, to HR department, and so forth. But in the last couple of years, it has been much more driven by their interest to transform their specific business. So I think that some might feel that they are not ready for that, and I hope that seminars like this, webinars like this, could help them to be more prepared for the digital HR that is there and will be coming. You know, if you saw my presentation, this is what the employees are expecting, and I think HR professionals are much more ready to deal with that than anybody else in the company. I'm not quite sure if that was what was meant by this question, but assuming that was what was meant, that would have been my answer to that.
Lance, I also would like to add something. There's something that the contribution from the C-suite that should come into to solve this problem. Explaining from my own experience, I took over the role of HR in one of the industry leaders in insurance. The HR department was really underperforming. Right, so they took about 87 days when I calculate to issue a document like letter of appointment. HR department didn't know how many employees are there active in that company. So likewise, the HR department was really underperforming, and I took them out, took them through a session of planning. Okay, the most the conducive behavior. Okay, what kind of should be the culture for HR department to come out of this underperforming situation. And we identified a set of activities, concepts, and we named it as TRIPS. I'm not going to explain the entire TRIPS framework, but I will explain I. The employees in the HR department said, we want the independence from IT. Okay, so basically, no hard feelings about IT professionals. Basically, when it comes to decision making, right, somehow the IT tend to override the HR professionals, where HR professionals simply going to mute. Okay, so this kind of a situation has to be handled or facilitated by kind of balanced by the C-suite. So that is, if I shed some light from my experience towards this question. So HR professionals has the capability, but it has to be facilitated to come out.
Okay, thank you very much, Aruna and Lars. I think
thank you very much, Aruna and Lars, so pulling me up. So I will continue from the cybersecurity readiness. Of course, the organization policies and procedures, the technology readiness, and simply I have seen that some people are requesting some information about the security component, whether this particular domain or this particular area of people who are working on this particular area, are they ready to give access to them as well to work from home. So of course, yes, when it comes to with certain limitations in the domain, it's a matter of having proper physical and logical security measures, and at the same time the multi-factor authentication mechanisms, the multi-user authentication mechanisms, and at the same time classifying the user and the information. So all of these, when you're thinking of all of these things, there are ways that you can make sure that any type of work can be carried out outside the organization as well. So that when it comes to the next slide, so that is where I would like to stress a little bit because I believe there are many HR personnel who is listening to it. So education and awareness. This is very important when it comes to any of these digital transformation things. So mainly when it comes to digital transformation, digital HR, the people working from home, people working from anywhere, utilizing their resources. So of course, it's very important to give proper education and awareness to your employees, so that when it comes to the next things, as Aruna was also mentioning, phishing or social engineering are a couple of ways that, okay, I mean, irrespective whether you're outside or inside the organization, it can happen to a person. If you are not properly educated, if you are not properly aware about what it is, irrespective of whether you're outside the office, outside your office premises, or inside the office premises, you will be a victim of both of these areas. So either phishing or social engineering. Of course, there are things that we can help you with. Anyone who would interest about learning more and how to avoid this phishing and social engineering, yes, contact our team, infrastructure team. They will come to you and give necessary assistance on training the people. But of course, there are enough and more resources available in online as well, as where you can utilize to educate personnel in your organization. And lastly, the user readiness. Of course, this is something again which is related to HR and the administration personnel in the organization. So in my perspective, you have to look into 5 different things of the user. Number 1 is device or devices. Whether the user have sufficiently powered device or sufficiently available computation for them to carry out their task as if they are working from office. And the second thing, none of these will work without connectivity. Of course, you have to have Microsoft Teams and workflow management systems, business process automation systems, the document archive systems in cloud, anything, you definitely have to have the connectivity. So it's mandatory to HR and the administration personnel to look into, okay, whether these people are having sufficiently equipped with devices and the connectivity to connect to these services which is hosted by the organization. Of course, thirdly, the access. As I was clearly mentioned in the technology readiness component, it's important to see whether this personnel, the user, is given the right access in case of internal, in case of external, in cloud. So either form of it, so it has to be there for user to work from anywhere, irrespective of whether you are in the office or the or at home or even at somewhere else, even while you are at vacation. Sometimes it's necessary. So definitely access is a definite fact. You have to give right access, the proper access for you to carry out your work. And next thing is the environment. Of course, okay, I have a 3-year-old kid. Okay, if he's running around, you know how kids nowadays are. Okay, they are very pretty much fond of electronic devices like laptops and mobile phones. Of course, you are not able to have some environment prepared for yourself in order to carry out your day-to-day work. It's a matter of fact, okay, you have to make sure that, okay, that kind of environment is set up for the user. So when organization, the superiors are allowing personnel to go ahead and allow this kind of, you have to discuss with the person, okay, do you have a right environment to work from home or work from anywhere? You may have to attend to team meetings, you may have to attend to customer meetings or supply meetings. Of course, whether you have the right environment, and same time you have to make sure that you are equipped or you are dressed properly to meet these customers or suppliers on. When it comes to certain instances, of course, okay, sometimes we will have to take a video call. So definitely you have to make sure, okay, your environment is right for that. And the tools like Microsoft Teams has, okay, you can blur the background and go ahead and do it. So likewise, there are certain features available with the tools. And at the same time, you have to make sure that, okay, you have a proper environment. Next is the competency. Of course, above all, with the education and awareness that you provide to the employee, you have to build the respective competency for them to operate these devices and connectivity, and have the knowledge of how to handle these accesses and the environment. And at the same time, you have to make sure that okay, you have a proper infrastructure team who would support in case of emergency, the troubleshooting, and in case of a requirement of assistance, how to and whom to contact. And same time, you have to make sure if you are the user who are doing this session or doing it from the home or anywhere out of the office, it is mandatory for you to be very responsive as well. Okay, so this is about okay what I'm thinking. Okay, when we are going into the work from anywhere concept and digital HR, you have to have these 5 components and you have to address each and every area. And at the same time, the organizations like TechOne Sanjay, the Enadoc, and personal like Aruna, so we are there to assist you on all these areas. Okay, how to empower your organization to come into the digital transformation stage. So in order to conduct the rest of the things, you have to make sure that okay, there are needs to be a toolkit. Okay, last was talking about certain tools, and Aruna was giving some glimpse of certain tools and things that you can do. At the same time, I would think, okay, what is the need of a toolkit? Okay, what do you want from a toolkit? Okay, before you collect up, okay, these are these technologies we need to happen. Okay, you have to make sure there are certain things, these things are covered. So what are these? So when it comes to the toolkit, of course, number one thing is you have to make sure that this toolkit has some tool which allows you the accessibility from anywhere. That is the number one thing. And the second thing is reduced physical paper and quick processes, time efficiency, and transparency. I'll come to the accessibility from anywhere component. So as I was talking about, so when it comes to the accessibility, it can be either from on-premise or from cloud-based. So you have to kind of do some checks and balances on on-premise and cloud-based scenarios, okay, which is more cost efficient, which has more security compliances, which has low maintenance costs, the hardware cost, and backup recovery maintainability. And so, likewise, there are many things that you have to look into. I'm not saying that it is not possible to do with on-premise things, but mainly when it comes to technological stack, it's very easy to transfer that burden of maintaining and burden of backing up, burden of hardware costs, everything to another provider, and make sure that okay, you are running your own business rather than worrying about the third-party services, the IT services, and so on and so forth inside the organization. It's matter of fact, okay, you transfer all that burden to the cloud service provider and digital transformation service provider and run your own business. So next thing is okay, reduce physical paper. I'll give you a good example here. So for example, even if you are working from home or anywhere, there can be some petty cash requirements for you to provide certain services or buy something for your task which you are carrying out, which once again, if you are to claim this, definitely you will have to have the invoice, attach that invoice to another paper which requests the petty cash from the finance, and the same time it requires to be signed by your supervisor, and it needs to be signed by his supervisor, sometimes the finance, and so on and so forth. All this paper has to be added and physically transferred from one place to another. Considering today's situation with this COVID-19 scenario, the transferring this document from one person to another will also carry a threat of virus. So it's definitely a fact, okay, reducing the paper would reduce the amount of transfer of viruses as well, okay. It doesn't matter whether it's COVID-19, even like a flu or any transferable viruses which is via air or through hands and all that. So simply, without having paper, you will definitely reduce the risk of having any of these kind of transferable diseases as well. So when it comes to reducing the physical paper, as highlighted by Aruna as well, so it is very important to have the devices like scanners and capture devices as well. That is to scan very large documents, the bulky documents, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to the systems like Enodoc, which has the capability of uploading documents or capturing documents directly via your mobile phone. It's allowing you to reduce the paper as much as possible. It's a matter of, okay, you make sure that the integrity of the information that you capture is preserved. Say, for example, as Lars was mentioning, okay, if you capture a document from Enodoc 365 document scanner, of course, it doesn't even share or even save that information in the mobile storage. It automatically captures and transfers through the application, and you will not have any trace of that document in the phone itself. So it preserves the confidentiality of the document content as well. So likewise, when it comes to reducing physical paper, there are certain ways. Okay, you can either scan or use the capture device. At the same time, okay, the Enodoc has My Workspace, where if you have some documents available, scanned and available in your machine, okay, you can upload them, or if you are connected to any capture device, rather than just scanning it to your machine, you can directly scan them into the application and send it to cloud or even to your on-premise installation. And if you are having iPhone or Android phone, of course, you can download and install Office Enodoc 365 document scan application, which gives you the luxury of confidentiality and integrity of the document. And you may think that I have skipped certain 3 other points that I was talking in my previous slide: the quick processes, time efficiency, and transparency. Of course, I have highlighted at the time of the organizational policies and procedures, it is important for any organizations to come up with a business process automation solution. So when you're looking at business process automation solutions such as Flowdo, so it provides you the quick processes, the time efficiency, and the transparency. So it's a matter of fact, so you go into such application where you can make sure that, okay, this task is assigned to a person irrespective of whether he's at office or at home or anywhere else. The task is assigned. As soon as the task is assigned, the clock is started. Okay, then anyone who is looking into the history of the task or the history of the workflow would understand, okay, this task is currently hanged with this particular person. Okay, or this set of people who are part of this group. So it's a matter of, okay, do a follow-up and get the things done. Okay, the transparency is there. Okay, from whom to whom it has been transformed, or maybe to whom the task was allocated. So, and the same time, you can find out, okay, how efficient these people are in responding. As I was saying, when it comes to user readiness and this kind of scenario, it's important for users to make sure that they respond on time. So that makes the time efficiency. So why I'm here, basically, I am just giving you some glimpse of 3 different products that Enodoc has. Okay, Enodoc's document management system. Okay, it basically scans and upload documents into this solution into the system, into the cloud or on-premise. And it has the capability of tagging and finding documents instantaneously, and it has AI-based computer vision which converts images as well as text. And the same time, it has the cognitive search capability going forward, where you can find out certain documents which is related to one single context. And as I was saying, okay, the Flowdo, you can see in the bottom 3 icons, the efficient collaboration, optimized workflows, and robotic process automation. So of course, by having a business process automation into your culture, into the organizational procedures, policies, simply you can reduce the amount of paper, you can add efficiency to your work, and same time you can make sure that certain work is being done automatically. So how you can transform your organization? Yes, I was telling you, okay, the certain things, and there are certain areas, almost all the areas that I was talking about, there can be people outside the organization who could help. Okay, definitely Tech1 Global has expertise on that, and you can talk to us and get the assistance on these areas. And at the same time, I would give you a glimpse of, okay, the next big thing is making sure that the documents that you are transferring inside the organization when you're outside the organization, it has to preserve the integrity of the document. So these are the things that you have to think of, okay, when it comes to digital HR, digital workforce, and working from anywhere. So it's simple as that: tag, find, do. So are you ready to be transformed? I would like to hand it over to Rishika and Vasanta. If there's any questions, we can move forward to the panel discussion.
Great. Thank you, Lakmal, for sharing such wonderful insights with us. I think we have a few minutes left. We can answer a few questions if our presenters are ready.
Yes, please. I think there's some questions in the, so let's start with those. There's already some questions in the queue from the audience, so I think we should just, there's at least two more questions, so let's take a look at those.
Okay, so the next question would be related to remote work. Can this be enabled for banks given the nature of the industry?
Obviously there are industries which have more of a compliance requirement that might be difficult to do at home, but the solution to this question would be something like a remote desktop. Basically, a remote desktop is hosted in the company's backend server, either on the cloud or on their servers. And when the employee access this on their device, they actually don't use the device for anything else than running a remote access application. And once that desktop has been opened, everything inside that desktop is reflected of what is in the company server. So that's a way of enabling that specific work. It obviously is a policy question for those organizations whether they will allow it or not, but it is definitely possible. It's technically viable and possible for any organization where the work is done through your PC, either on the phone or on the PC. You should be able to work remotely. So it's up to the IT, CIO, and the compliance team to set up the framework to allow that. But there's no technical reason it should not be allowed.
Okay. Arun, do you think you have anything to add in terms of enabling?
I could cite a case study, but actually this is what happened was I was working for a small bank and a group of managers were sent to Lebanon for a study. What they have done is they have transformed the branch. So when somebody comes to the branch, of course, we have all these automatic ATMs and cash deposit machines, all those things. Among that, what they have done is they have given a kiosk for the customers to come and sit. And then the customer service agent catering for multiple branches. So the customer service officer is not available in the branch. So I think if we tweak this model a bit, right? So we have the kiosk and the customer service officer can be at the at home, maybe well dressed and with a good background, as Lakmal explained. Maybe the background is blurred, right? So still we could implement this scenario. Of course, what was mentioned about the regulators and all those things are true, but with the policy, they can be implemented.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think I can also add something, Rishika, here, because some time back, if you are required to open a bank account, you have to go to the bank. You have to physically present there to make sure that you are there to open the bank account. But when it comes to the now current days, there are many mobile applications, many banks who allow you to just create your own account via a mobile application. It's a matter of you snap your NIC card and your other utility bill, and even your photograph, and add your fingerprints and so on and so forth. So mainly it's already coming. I mean, it's a matter of, okay, the policymakers allow them to go ahead and basically practice these things. Even the banks are places that you can work from home as well. It's matter of, okay, as I was clearly mentioned, the education and awareness. You have to make sure that these people, whomever who's working from home, who's handling confidential information of a customer, is addressing due diligence and due care as of you are working from the office itself. Thank you.
I think we have a little bit of time left for another question. Do you think socializing the employee engagement reduce the seriousness of the employer engagement? I think maybe Lars can add something to it.
I think that's you know, it's I don't know anybody could answer this question. Socializing the employee engagement, you know, might reduce the older generation's view on how you know, an employee function should work. But you know, if you would see a 18, 19-year-old person entering the workforce, you know, recording a TikTok video on their first day at work and lean back and then try to work on their mobile, they might think that socializing is a part of work and should be a part of their employee engagement. So I think, you know, that is very different from you know, organization to organization, how you approach it. That's my view.
Well, this is like what we are talking about is where to draw the line. So basically, socializing maybe physically or on social media by a manager should not jeopardize their decision making and their managerial capabilities. Through my personal experience as a head of HR, right? So I mean, that's in the HR manager's day's work to terminate employees. I'm sorry, I mean, this would like sound little ridiculous. But then, like, just imagine that I have been able to maintain the relationships with people, right? We conduct the disciplinary inquiry. I prosecute, and then the inquiry officer gives the decision that the employee has to be fired. I serve the letter of termination. And finally, employee takes the letter of termination and gets up and say, "Thank you very much, sir. You have helped me a lot through this situation. Right? Thank you very much." So that's the level of interaction that you maintain, right? So that how you make your independence. Okay, as a person, you support the employee, and but officially you have to carry out your duty. So this has to be maintained by a manager. That's in the work of days life of a manager.
All right, I think that's all the time permit us today. Firstly, I would like to thank all the presenters and our moderator for the day for joining with us and sharing your experience and answering all our questions that the audience had given us. I think that's all for this week. If you have any clarifications or if you have any questions for us, you can just send us an email through aliana@techoneglobal.com to get in touch with us, and we also can help you plan your digital transformation journey. Once again, thank you all for joining with us. We will see you soon.
Thank you, Resh.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.